How are you, mate?
G'day, mate. How are you, Mel?
Yeah, how you been?
Yeah, good, thanks, man. Yeah, no complaints at all. The clip got released today and stuff, and yeah, the results and the response has been really positive. It's been actually overwhelmingly positive, both here and overseas, and all that. And it's yeah, look, really happy with the response so far, Mel. To be honest with you, it's been great.
Yeah, look, I was allowed to download the album to listen to it. It's
Excellent.
it's fucking killer, man.
Thanks, bro. I really do appreciate that. It seems to be the general consensus that a lot of people are really digging it, which we're rapt about. We really are. It's it's an album that's taken a long time. You know what I mean? Because there was quite a few hiccups along the way, obviously. But yeah, really happy to be here. And I mean, a lot of people saying to us, "Why on earth are you releasing it?" During the whole COVID pandemic, and we're just like, "Well, why not?" It's pretty much a perfect opportunity for us. In a sense that it gives people probably a chance to really, listen to it, because they've got some time on their hands. But at the same time, too, it was just important for us to get it out there after all this time as well. So we're really just humbled by the response, but we're so glad to have that weight off our shoulders after so long and to have the album out, man, really are. So I'm glad to hear your response, man. Thank you very much.
No worries. I think it is the perfect time to come out with albums because I've never heard so much new music in concentrated time frame. I don't reckon, as in the last 3 or 4 months. I've heard that much new stuff, and it is the perfect time.
I think it's also a culmination of factors because a lot of musicians and all that, a lot of artists have just got no choice but to work on their craft, you know what I mean? Because that's their form of escape, more or less, amongst all the bloody, the stuff that's going on in the world, more or less. So, it's good because, it's a lot of the musicians are doing what they do naturally, you know what I mean? I suppose that's our mechanism to cope with the stress, more or less. But, we were just happy to get the album out after all that time because, there were a few setbacks and, originally, we were slated to have the album out in 2018, but it wasn't to be. So we're just really stoked to finally have it out there after all this time right now, and really happy with that, yeah.
So let's expand on that. You'd ideally like to have had it out in 2018. What happened?
Sure. Culmination of factors, basically. The main one being actually that Silvio lost his voice. He had some health problems. He was in hospital twice.
Wow.
And when he lost his voice, it wasn't just like a person losing their voice and then it comes back again. It was literally to the point where his therapist and his doctors said to him, and the specialist said to him, "We're not sure if you're going to get your voice back," basically.
Fuck.
And it was scary in a sense. So Silvio had to basically get onto a vocal therapist and all that type of stuff, and a vocal coach as well, and learn from scratch again. Like obviously, he still had something in him, you know what I mean, which we're thankful for. But it just got him back on the horse more or less, you know what I mean. So we're thankful for that. But the other thing was too is unfortunately, during the recording process, over the time that we were in the studio, Silvio lost both his parents. His father passed away, and then his mother passed away a year later. So, with all the things that happen in real life, of course, with family and stuff like that, it can take focus, but time away, and it's more of a situation like, guys, not now. I just can't do this, and it was frustrating for us, but it was also a thing that we understood. We accepted because it just had to be like that, and we're glad, man, after all this time that we're back on the horse more or less, and Silvio's been singing really well. We've got the new lineup, of course, and because of the pandemic, we've only had 7 rehearsals, but in those 7 rehearsals we had the new guys. It's been sounding fantastic, and I'm happy to report that Silvio's been singing brilliantly in the rehearsal studio. He's been really going for it, and it's just sounding great. So very humbled and more or less, just very thankful about that, Yeah.
He sounds killer on the album. When were the recordings done for his vocals?
Man, in stages, you know what I mean? So with Silvio's vocals, the last song that he did actually before he ended up being sick was Free. And that was a song that he really gave it his all. It's probably one of my favorite performances of his on the album. And then he was very tired in the studio, and of course he's a very hard worker as well, but he was very tired, and obviously everything it's like gotten to him, over time. And after we had that recording session, it wasn't until about 4 or 5 days later I got a message from him going, "Bro, just let you know I'm in hospital." I'm like, "What? What's happened?" It was just bizarre. It really was. It was crazy, but. And then when he got better, funny enough, the last song that he did for the album was Salvas. So you can hear in his voice, it was a little bit tired in some parts, but you could hear in his voice, he had that raspy approach back. You know what I mean? That's like the character, which is Silvio's voice. And so his vocals, man, Mallow was around about, I reckon, on and off about a year and a half of him doing vocals here and there. You know what I mean? That he got it done. And at one stage too, because with family commitments and stuff like that, and of course with his parents passing away, it's a massive financial burden as well. So he was working double time, to obviously raise money and take care of the things he had to. So we had to be understanding of that and accepting of that. And it was hard for us as well, because we're just like, wow, okay, what's going on? But he's not the type of guy who's going to really tell you what's going on, but he's like, just let you know I'm on, but not at the moment, And of course, it's one of them things where it was a patience game, but we got through it, thankfully.
Just one thing I didn't catch there when you said the last song he did was which one?
Salvas.
Salvas, right, yeah. That's one of my favourites from the album.
Oh, thank you, man. So Salvas was actually the last song, and this is a story about it. I was actually talking to a guy from the UK this morning about it too. And with Salvas, it was one of those songs that it's a little bit different for Vanishing Point. And we recognized that from the outset after we finished writing the actual music to it. We're just like, hey, there's something pretty cool about this, that it's not bang, rip your face off Vanishing Point, where it's just straight into it and it's rips galore and all that. It was a little bit more subdued, but it was quite atmospheric. And Silvio said to me, he goes, look, I know we've written quite a few variations lyrically and melodically speaking for this song for the vocals. He goes, but it's just got to be right, and we've got this policy more or less that, nothing is complete until it's recorded. You know what I mean? And as a songwriter myself, sometimes that's really hard to bite that bitter pill. But I'm thankful that he really pursued that. And it was good because it was the first album that we've actually had an executive producer, which is Dean Wells from Terra Maze. And he really put some really cool ideas, gave us some hints in terms of what he was hearing with the song vocally. And that's why Dean's also got a bit of a songwriting credit on that as well, because he really did bring out, I think, something a little bit different from Silvio vocally, but also something a little bit different for me, writing lyrics on the spot in the studio, because it's got a bit more space, you know what I mean? Where I had the habit many years ago of cramming a lot of lyrics into a song because, I was trying to tell a story or whatever. But I think that the end result with Salvas, what we found was it was more a less is more approach.
Yeah, I was just about to interrupt you and say sometimes less is more, yeah.
Yeah, and we felt good about that. And we're just really wrapped it turn out the way it did, because I suppose in today's world as well, it's a bit more of a positive song than, all the doom and gloom that's out there.
Tell us about who else is in the band these days.
Okay, so of course we've got Silvio, myself, we've got James Bushy Mayer, who's been in the band since 2012. He's the other guitarist as well. Great player, great guy. He's probably one of the best guitar players that I've ever played with. He's just phenomenal with his technique and his sense of melody and all that. Great to, write stuff with as well. And then we've got two new guys. One of them is Gaston, the bass player, Gaston Chin. Phenomenal bass player, an equally nice guy, just a quietly spoken, humble dude, and just a lovely fella, and really happy to have him on board. And then we've got the young guy, Damien, who's 21 years of age and fantastic drummer. He's got this youthful vigor that he brings into the band as well. But at the same time, too, he's actually got a really good head on his shoulders. He's young and he's got that, that fire on the kid as well. but at the same time too, he's actually quite, he's well spoken, of course, but he's also quite knowledgeable in terms of music. So Damien's done like a sound engineering course in the past. And not only is he a fantastic drummer, but he's an awesome acoustic guitar player as well. You know what I mean? And he writes his own music as well. So definitely in the future, looking forward to having Gaston and Damien contribute quite a bit as well to the VP stuff in the future. So
it's one of these annoying people that can do it all, eh?
You know what? I thought initially when it was like, oh, is this annoying? But I actually thought, no, this is great. I mean, because I think that probably some of the stuff that he can play on the guitar is probably better than what I do.
I won't tell him that.
No, man, I think he already knows it, and I'm fine with that because I'm more just a songwriter. I'm a guitar player, of course, but I consider myself first and foremost a songwriter.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, I'm happy to, play melodies and stuff like that, but if there's a solo that really rips, yeah, I do a few of them, but I really love hearing James really go for it because he's just a fantastic player. So there's no ego issues whatsoever. It's basically, at the end of the day, as long as the song is good, so, yeah.
So this album, when is it actually coming out? When can people buy it? And what's the preferred method these days? It's a different world we live in these days.
Yeah, sure is, man. Sure is. So, overseas, of course, it's through AFM Records, which is distributed all throughout Europe and South America, North America, and all that. We're working on a release for Japan currently, which we're sort of negotiating at the moment. But also in Australia, we signed up to Octane Records, which is headed by Bailey Graham, which we're really happy to be on because he's also a manager and stuff like that too. But we decided we keep it in-house. Bailey's a young guy and he's got some great ideas, and dare I say it, for older folk like ourselves, he understands, we've had a lot of experience, of course, with promotion and stuff like that, but he understands how to get the ball rolling really well with promotion and stuff like that. And so really happy to have him on board. And basically the album is available through Octane Records. There's a link that people can check out. They can either go to the Vanishing Point Facebook or the Octane Records Facebook and buy from the label direct there. We've got a bundle at the moment with the CD, poster and a T-shirt and stuff like that. Or they can order the CD as well. The gameplay in regards to how you're saying about CDs being available in outlets, it's a hard one because, look, truth be known, with Distant as a Sun, many years ago, we weren't shopping around. We were doing it more independently ourselves anyway. But when we approached one of the big retailers who had a history of selling our CDs in the past and selling really well, especially with Embrace the Silence and the Fourth Season album, which pretty much were really good sellers in Australia. With Distant as a Sun, we learned a little bit of a lesson where we approached this big retailer and they were expecting us to supply the CD at a certain cost. And if the CD didn't sell, well, then we were expected to take that CD back, but they were going to charge us for that, for shelf space.
What?
And we're just, it was crazy. It really was. And we're just like, fucking no way. No, thank you. No, we don't need it. And so basically, for Distant as the Sun, we did it DIY. So we supplied it to a few shops, like Metal Merchant over in Perth and stuff like that, and sold it through our website and Facebook and through Bandcamp. But predominantly speaking, we sold a lot of the CDs at shows as well, at live shows. And so that helped us a lot, you know what I mean? Because that money was going direct to the band, And so, therefore, with the whole deal with Octane as well, a good chunk of that comes towards the band as well. So we're so happy to be on that deal with Bailey and Octane Records here in Australia. So, yeah, it's worked out all right. I think it's a really hard thing to get the CDs out there, you know what I mean? Because logistically speaking, in terms of, the cost of freight, it's just crazy. And then everybody wants us, that the CDs applied at a certain cost, which is fair enough. But then when you weigh it up, okay, got to pay for postage, whatever, sending a bulk amount of CDs, and they might sell, within a year or 6 months or whatever. Then you're waiting for the money, of course, because some of the retailers, want to pay you in certain quarters or half yearly or whatever. It's just not feasible in that sense, you know what I mean? It really isn't,
You're better off these days, putting them on the merch desk.
That's right, and we've always been about that like that as well, Mal. Even when we were, with Riot many years ago as well, we still had the fourth season and Embrace the Silence and all that, and Tangled in Dream and the In Thought CDs. We still had them on the merch desk alongside the shirts, and we found that helped us save up money to put in the band account to get more merch done. Or, I mean, invariably, with the Embrace the Silence album and the fourth season album, they sold really well. That actually funded our 2008 European tour to pay for tour bus costs and all that type of stuff when we supported Sonata Arctica. So, it can be done. It's a hard slog. It's definitely harder now. There's no doubt about it. But with that being said, it can be done. And I'm thankful to, have that affiliation more or less with Octane now here in Australia, because they're doing good things for us.
Breaking out and actually playing a live show again. It's a tough one, isn't it?
It is. That is,
I'm going stir crazy here at home, and I'm not a muso. So I can just imagine what it's doing to you guys, especially over there. No offence.
Yeah.
You're a bit more trapped than we are.
Yeah.
Tell us how you're getting around that. I mean, not so much the live show bit at the moment, but rehearsals, how are you doing it? Is it a Zoom rehearsal?
Well, actually, truth be known is we chat a lot with the guys on WhatsApp, you know what I mean? So we communicate like that online quite a bit. We've got our VP type of group chat there, and we're always bouncing ideas and stuff like that there. And we're also bouncing new demo pre-production material that we've got for the next few releases as well. And of course, the odd goofballing as well. But at the moment, it's more or less a situation that our hands are tied. I'm looking at it in two ways, basically. I could look upon it in a negative sense and go, man, I'm hanging to play live and this is depressing. But at the same time, too, with the album release coming up, it's actually kept us relatively busy doing press and all that. And because under stage 4 lockdown, especially with Silvio and myself, because we're both self-employed sole traders, our work is not considered how could you say, essential work, more or less. So we're not allowed to work at this current time because of the government guidelines. So we have no choice but to stay home. And with that being said, it's basically 5 a.m. You can get out the door if you're working, but you've got to be back by 6 p.m. or whatever. Most of the thing is that the government's wanting people to stay home as much as possible. So you're only allowed out if you need to go to the supermarket or for medical reasons or to get medicine or whatever, or caregiving. Like I've got an elderly mum who lives 17 kilometres away, and I never knew it was 17 kilometres away until I checked on the GPS, because we've only got a 5-kilometre radius we're allowed to operate in. But because it's caregiving and I was taking food to mum and I don't want her to go to the shop at the moment, I was allowed to do it. In terms of missing live playing, there's definitely that, of course. We miss live playing, but at the same time, we've been actually keeping ourselves focused and busy with press, but also working on newer material. We've got a lot of new material, that not only has been from now, because of the lockdown, but it's been over the years too, when we've been waiting patiently to get the album finished. So we're always trying to think ahead, more or less.
Press, practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest with you, Mel, under the circumstances right now, I'm okay with that. I really am. I want my family and myself and all the friends and supporters of the band and people that I know, I want everybody to be safe at this current, situation. You know what I mean? It's it's a tough one. It really is, because when it was announced, a couple of weeks ago that we're going to stage 4 lockdown, oh man, the first 2-3 days I was depressed in a sense. I was just like, man, how am I going to do this? But then I was thinking to myself, perspective has to kick in, because, you can crack the shits all you want, but, it's not going to change anything. You just got to roll with the punches and accept it for what it is and just deal with it, more or less. So,
Chris from Vanishing Point, thanks so much for having a chat to me. Best of luck with your new album, Dead Elysium, which I absolutely love. Best of luck with that, and thanks again for chatting.
Thanks once again, Mel, and thanks once again to all the supporters out there. We really do appreciate it, man. It's a pleasure. Thank you.